I love a hot hatchback. To me, it is the epitome of the best all-round car. It's practical, it's a family car, but it's fun when you want it to be. And, well, we've had plenty of them. We've had Golf GTIs, we've had Volvo C30 T5s and numerous Mini Cooper S's. But the two cars that both myself and my partner Liz have absolutely loved in our time driving has been Seat Leon Cupras. I had a Cupra R and you had a standard Leon Cupra 20 valve, and you loved that car, didn't you?
I did.
Now when we drove this car, which is the new Cupra Born, the fully electric one, when it was launched earlier this year, I found it just lacking that little something that made a Cupra, well, a Cupra. So the lovely people at Cupra said to me, why don't you take an e-Boost, which is this car, and live with it for a little bit. So this has been our new long-term test car, and we've been using this as our everyday family car for quite some time now. And my colleague Rod has also used it on another episode, which you're going to see very, very soon. So the question is, does the e-Boost turn the Cupra Born into the Cupra? Does it give it that Cupra-ness that we thought it was lacking? Well, it's time to find out with the help of my other half, Liz, and all I can say is welcome to the new Cupra Born e-Boost, welcome to the Cupra Diaries,
And welcome to AutoEV.
that's my line. Now, before we get started in this week's episode of our new long-term test car, it is of course that time where I ask you to make sure you're subscribed to the AutoEV channel. And once you've done that, make sure you then press the little bell button that's down below, because then you'll be notified of when our next video goes live. Once you've watched it, if you do enjoy it, please give it a thumbs up and leave us some comments down below, good or bad. Let us know how we're doing and let us know your thoughts on the cars that we review. Do you own a Cupra Born? Have you been spending some time with it? What do you think of it? Please do let us know. Now, as I say, this isn't going to be a normal road test, because I say we've tested the Cupra Born before, so it's more of a sort of like an update on how we found living with the car. But we will touch on a few things that we would normally in the normal road test. So we may as well start with the way the car looks. Now, I like it, and it's based obviously on the Volkswagen ID3, which you can see, but I think it's a much sharper looking car. What do you think when it turned up?
So I think it's good looking. It looks a little bit more like the original Leon shape with a slightly elevated back to it. I like the use of the copper throughout as well.
Yeah.
And there's a strong sustainability message as well. So some of the materials inside are quite tactile, that kind of neoprene, recycled material on the seats, etc. And overall, it's a very, very good looking car.
I think Rod made a really nice, I said to you earlier, I think Rod made a really good comment about it. He said at night it sort of feels quite special, the ambient lighting inside and the lights around it. See, I quite like this new kind of hawk-like front end, you know, these lovely cowled lights, and you keep saying about it looks like it's Transformer badge on the front. You really like that, don't you? Now this car that we've got, it's a V2 specification, which I'll go through the specs with us later, but this gets the 19-inch alloy wheels as standard, and this particular colour that our car is in is Vapor Grey, which is one of the standard colours, which I really like, and I think it offsets those copper bits that you mentioned earlier really nicely. It's quite kind of, it's subtle but still looks quite special. Yeah?
Yeah, I would agree with you.
All right, let's look at its practicality now. So, it's still the same 385 litre boot that you get obviously in the standard Born, and it's perfectly fine for us. We've been using it just, you know, take our daily kind of stuff around. We've got charging cables, there's some, you know, there's a tiny little bit of underfloor storage where they can go as well, and you've got the 60-40 split rear seat. Now 385 litres is pretty average for a class. I mean, it's way down on what you get with the Renault Megane, the new Megane E-Tech, but it is a good size of boot. It is what you'd probably expect in terms of an everyday sort of like 5-door family hatchback boot, and I can't really see you needing much more than this. You get a couple of little kind of hooks to sort of like, you know, hang sort of like bags from, and there's some tie down, there's some lashing points where obviously you can tie things down on, but yeah, it's okay. Now, this seat is actually set up for Liz, and she's taller than me. I'm 5'8", she's probably about 5'10", coming on 5'11". So she does sit slightly further back than me, but actually it's not bad. There's still knee room there, that's still not too bad. There is a lot of space underneath the seat to get my feet as well, so that's quite good. One thing to point out, and we'll go on to battery sizes in the usability section. Our car's a 58 kilowatt hour car. If you opt for the bigger battery, the 77 kilowatt hour battery, you don't get this central rear seat. There's two more individual rear seats, if you like. There's a slightly raised section here without the lap belt, so do be aware of that. It's a good flat floor. You've got two USB-C charging ports in the back. There's a nice kind of, there's enough little elasticated seat pockets for iPads and stuff to get sort of like thrown into. Our daughter, her seat fits there nicely. There's easy to access ISOFIX points as well, which is really good. The only thing, as I said, on the interior side of it, it'd be nice if our car had what I think you call it, the skyline roof, where you get the glass roof. Because it does feel a little bit dark in here, especially on the V2 specification cars, because they have got the darker privacy glass in the back as well. So, and especially when you're sort of like sat behind these kind of nice big tombstone seats, which are great for the front passenger, but you do feel a little bit more enclosed in at the back. But otherwise, in terms of rear space, this is actually pretty good, and I have to say it's slightly better than the Megane E-Tech for rear seat accommodation. Now, there are some differences as well with the interior of the Born over the ID3, but there are some similarities, which a lot of it's to do with the main infotainment screen and the driver instrument binnacle as well. So it's worthwhile just chatting about those. But again, Liz, your thoughts, what do you think? What do you like, what you don't like about the interior of this car?
So overall, it's very, very smart looking. Again, it's got the use of the copper, which I quite like, the materials, which I mentioned before. I suppose the one thing that I will come back to time and time again, the same with when we have the Volkswagen cars, is this whole thing.
Yeah, these
and it's
touch
just
sensitive.
My absolute inability to be able to use it.
Yeah, it takes a lot of getting used to, and that's the one thing we've, as Liz says, we've found with all the Volkswagen Group cars, bar the Audi, it just seems to be focused on this infotainment system. You've got these horrendous slider controls for adjusting volume and temperature, which aren't illuminated at night, so you're kind of poking and prodding at night trying to find the right bit, and there just seems to be too many layers to go through to turn things on and off, doesn't there?
Yeah.
I mean, it's like you were doing with the heated seat the other day. When you press that button up there, it brings up another screen, and you've then got to do it again, whereas normally you're used to just like a button 1, 2, 3 to turn up the temperature of the seat.
Yes, absolutely. It's trying to find where everything is, and I'm sure, if you've had this car for a year plus, or you'd become more attuned to it. But as I say, if you're driving along and want to put on a heated seat, I don't want to take my eyes off the road to go through the equivalent of 3 different movements to then find the appropriate function. Yeah,
there is a shortcut. We should mention that there is a voice control shortcut where you can ask it to do certain things, such as warm your hands or do this or do that. But again, you've got to learn all these things. It's rather than just being a normal kind of button.
Yeah.
That's the thing. You've really got to learn it. The other thing, again, the one thing, again, that drives me absolutely insane is the buttons on the steering wheel. Where I drive, the heel of my hand is always turning the volume up and down. Or the radio, as you turn the wheel, my heel of my hand slides across it, and that adjusts the volume, which I don't really like. Driving position for you, because you're a bit taller than me, how do you find it?
Very comfortable.
Seats?
Again, very comfortable. Yeah. But, I suppose for me, it is the use of space or not using the space in the car. So quite often you have the ability to have a little bit more storage in these central columns, etc. But I kind of get where they're going with this in terms of wanting it to look a little bit more kind of niche, having the separate footwells, etc.
A bit sportier.
Correct.
Driver, passenger separated.
Yes,
yes. Yeah, because you don't get this in the ID3, the centre console. Now, I quite like it, I must admit. And you've got 2 big cup holders there for your coffee flasks. There's a wireless charging pad in this particular one with the option, there's somewhere for my sunglasses to go in and stuff. But I get what you're saying. If you have that open floor design where it's easier to drop your bag down, or if you've got things like that. I mean, what else have you got? You've got tiny glove box. I mean, that's all you can fit in the glove box, because there's a fuse box there, that's it. And it would be nice if it had the option of the panoramic sunroof, just to give a bit more light in the car.
It's quite dark, isn't it?
It's quite dark interior. Yeah. But again, I'm with you, I love the materials. I absolutely love the materials.
I think a huge amount of thought has gone into the fact that an electric car that is sustainable in terms of the materials that are being used. And I really, really like that messaging.
Yeah, no, I think it's great. The only other thing that I will say that I've gone slightly off, this driver's binnacle, I don't think there's enough information up there. Now, you do get a heads-up display on this V2 specification, which does help a little bit. But you know, when this screen here, the smaller screen that's on top of the on top of the steering column, I'd like a little bit more out of that personally. When you drive things like the Kias and the Hyundais, they give a slightly more information to the driver, where you can see different pieces like your battery charge, your state of charge and stuff like. Whereas again, like Liz was saying, you've got to kind of try and go through this screen to find some of those things. But on the whole, I think it's better than the Volkswagen ID3. I think it's certainly it feels better built. But again, I'm with you. The one thing that I absolutely love is the use of the materials. I love this kind of wetsuit neoprene, this kind of slightly kind of textured feel here. You get a nice leather steering wheel. But it is that infotainment system that just it detracts from it, doesn't it?
And I think, you know, my ultimate view is, having had an original model as a brand new company car, my very first brand new company car. You know, it's something that you've always aspired to. You know, back in the day. And it was fantastic. You know, it was black leather, it was everything you wanted at that point in time.
There's not even the option to have the leather in the
and it went like an absolute rocket. And this, whereas it's a really, really lovely car, don't get me wrong, a lovely, lovely car, very expensive, but still a lovely car, it didn't match up to the ideology in my head
of what it was going to be like.
What it was going to be like, and how I was going to feel like driving it.
All right, well, that's fair point.
It was another school run car for me.
Fair point. And we walk our daughter to school.
Yes, sustainable as ever. Yeah.
Right, let's move on. Now, I'm not going to go into too much detail about charging and mileages and such, because that's more about what Rod's video, his time with the car, was all about. But let me just give you my sort of like synopsis on it. Now, our car's fitted with a 58 kilowatt hour battery, which should, according to WLTP figures, give a range of around about 263 miles. Now, our time with the car has been spent mostly at higher speeds at motorways and open air roads, and we've been averaging around about 3.6 miles per kilowatt hour, and that translates to around about 214 miles of range. Now, as I say, if we were maybe based more sort of like urban running around or within the city limits or stuff, then obviously we could expect a slightly better return on that. But even so, that's not bad in fairness. Now, the car will take charging speeds of up to 135 kilowatts, and to go from 5 to 80% in the standard benchmark time from one of those chargers is 35 minutes, which again is pretty good. And our local Shell recharge station has just had some new 135 kilowatt chargers fitted, so that's exactly pretty much what we've been seeing with the car. So it's not bad. If you do need more, of course, Cupra will sell you one with a 77 kilowatt hour battery, which will give a WLTP range of just over 335 miles. But bear in mind, if you do take the option for the bigger battery, you do go down to a 4-seat car, not 5. So this is where we should feel the difference of the e-Boost model, because in comparison with the standard car, which is 204 PS, this takes the power up to just over 230 PS. And you get that extra power by either sort of like stamping hard on the throttle, so effectively kicking down, if you like you would in a kind of automatic car, or you can program it into the driver settings. So I've got it set up so that you can change various different things on the driving modes. So the steering's set for a more kind of performance orientated thing, so it's got a slightly heavier feel to it. You've got the sort of like the motor, which is set into sort of like, you know, the Cupra mode as they call it. So you've got that extra power there. See, all that is available through your driver selection modes, which is quite nice and handy to do. And it drops the 0 to 60 time down from 7.4 seconds of the standard car to 6.6 seconds in this e-Boost model. And it does, you do feel a difference. It's just not sort of exciting enough in some respects. It's still lacking that little bit that you want from that Cupra badge. It's not neck-snappingly quick. You know, if you think about, you know, my old Cupra, my Leon Cupra R was the 225 BAM engine, and it really felt quick. When that turbo hit, you just whooshed forward. It just had that lovely sort of, you know, kick in the back, hot hatch kind of feel. just doesn't feel it here. It's so frustrating because you can sense that it's almost there. It's almost there. I tell you what it feels like. It feels like there's a layer between me and the car. It feels like I'm talking to the car through an interpreter. I know it sounds silly, but whenever I ask it for an input, whenever I give it an input, it feels like it goes through something else and then it happens. It does happen. It does happen. You know, the car does turn in. You know, there's reasonable front end bite. You know, the back end kind of just goes out in line as you would want it to, but it just feels like it's not quite as when you drive the Mini Electric and you engage with that car, it feels like you're really driving. It feels like the driver's inputs are giving that response. It kind of just doesn't feel like that with a Cupra, and it's just a little bit frustrating that it's just not quite there. And I've spent a lot of time with the car, and I really do like it. There's a lot to recommend about this car. It is biblically comfortable on the motorway. I mean, I did quite a bit. I mean, Rod's done the majority of the big motorway drive in the car, which you'll see on his video. But, you know, I took the car up to the Bicester Scramble and, you know, on AM40 and just sitting there. It is lovely to drive in that sense. It's so comfortable from a driver's point of view and from passengers, obviously, as well. But when the road turns that bit twisty, when you just want to get a bit of a hustle on, it feels a bit dull. It feels a bit heavy. You can't disguise the weight of the car either. It doesn't feel as lithe as you want a hot hatch to feel. You know, when you drive a little, you know, the little Mini Cooper Electric, or, you know, some of the other cars, even the new Megane, the E-Tech, the chassis is so good and so communicative. As I say, it just feels like there's a little layer between what I'm asking the car to do and then it happening. And I find that frustrating. A couple of other things to maybe discuss. The brakes are pretty good. They're all right. Quite like them. There's a nice consistency on the pedal feel. You do have brake regeneration as well. There's a one level one here, and that's done through this transmission selector that's up on top of the dash here when you flick it into the B mode. And if you are spending most of your time in and around town, it is pretty much one pedal driving, I should say. It's pretty good that way, so it's aggressive enough that you do get that sort of one pedal drive with the car, and that's quite nice. And then obviously when you're up in the motorway, you can take it off just by flicking it back to the D mode. So yeah, I've got to commend them for that. And as I say, the consistency and the weight of the controls is nice too. You know, the throttle pedal and then going on to the brake, it feels like it's the right, you know, it all harmonises, and I like that. Controls are nice and easy, everything falls to hand, and as Liz was saying earlier, you know, the driving position's really good, it's comfortable, the seats are really nice, they're worthy of a mention. I really do like the seats, they've got a nice kind of support to the backrest. I love the materials in this car, I really do. It's just this Dynamica trim is really, really nice. I like that. That you get with the car, and as I say, I love the kind of neoprene on the dash and the suede on the door arms and the ambient lighting around the car. All of that is, you know, it feels nice. I just wish the driving experience gave me a bit more, and a bit more that I expect from having that badge in front of me. I'm almost tempted to say that if you were in the market for one of these, to almost ignore the e-Boost model and just go for the standard car, because that's how I would probably have it. Anyway, there we go. Now, our car is a 58 kilowatt hour e-Boost model in V2 specification, and that price starts at £37,445 before any options. Now, these prices are correct at time of filming. Our car is optioned up to £38,185. That's because it's fitted with the Tech Pack L, which gives it something called Car 2 L Link, intelligent parking assist, as well, and wireless phone charging, which is quite a nice thing to have. If it had been my car, I'd probably pick something like the Skyline panoramic roof and the heat pump option as well. I think the V2 specification is probably the ideal spec, because if you go move up to the V3, all you get over and above this is electric driver's seat and passenger seat in the front and massage function and 20-inch wheels. But I think the ride quality on these 19s, which are standard on the V2, is probably about as much as you'd want. So that to me is probably the sweet spot in the range, will be the V2 specification. And of course, competition for the Born. Well, of course, it comes from within its own family, Volkswagen ID3. And they're rumoured to be bringing out a GTX version of that car, so a slightly more high performance variant of the ID3. So that'll be quite interesting to see if that maybe answers some of the criticisms that we had of that original car. Next year, we're also seeing the introduction of things like the Vauxhall Astra E and its cousin from Peugeot, the 308 Electric. And let's also not forget the brilliant Renault Megane E-Tech, a new entrant into the marketplace, these C-sector hatches, and as far as I'm concerned, probably the best that's out there available. And of course, how can we forget one of our old favourites, the Citroën EC4? It's a lot less money, but also does offer a lot less performance. And talking of a lot less money, how can we not mention the wonderful value for money that is the MG4? And whilst initially it doesn't maybe have the sort of performance credentials that the Cupra alludes to, there is rumours of an all-wheel drive twin motor version of that car coming at probably slightly cheaper money than this car. So yeah, Cupra's got a bit of a fight in its hands. So here's 5 things that we've loved about having lived with the Cupra Born e-Boost. We love its styling, its refinement, the materials used on the interior, it's comfortable to drive, and it's been very easy to live with. The 5 things that we don't like about the Cupra Born is this touch sensitive switchgear. Too many things are controlled through that infotainment screen. The smaller driver's display. It lacks the excitement that both Liz and I wanted from the Cupra badge. And it feels quite heavy at times. Now, the man's coming tomorrow to take our car away. And we've spent obviously quite a bit of time with it. So, has it changed my mind on the Cupra Born? Is this the missing, does the e-Boost model have the missing ingredient that I thought wasn't quite there when I drove the car originally? And I have to say, for me, it remains a very, very good car. And if you have one of these or you have one on order, I don't think you're going to be much disappointed with it. It is a very good car, but I still feel it's lacking that little something to make it a great car. What do you think?
So I thought it was, it's a lovely car to drive. It's a lovely car to whiz around in. Did it match up to the idealism I had of a Seat Leon Cupra? No. But as a standalone car with a Seat name badge, very, very nice.
That's a really interesting point. So you see, if it had been marketed maybe more as a Seat,
correct,
rather than as a Cupra, it would have been more of what you would have expected.
Yeah, I think that there would have been, more of a realism there to it for me.
So there you have it, folks. Good, but not quite great. Thank you once again for watching, and please remember to make sure that you are subscribed to the AutoEV channel. Once you do that, press the little bell button that's down below, because then that way you'll be notified of when our next video goes live. If you have enjoyed the video, if you've enjoyed seeing Liz and her thoughts on it, please make sure you do give it a thumbs up and leave us some comments down below, good or bad. As I say, let us know how we're doing as a channel and let us know your thoughts on the car. Do you own a Cupra Born? Are we wrong? Do you feel differently? Please do let us know. Remember, we're across all social media platforms as well, so Facebook, Instagram, Twitter and LinkedIn, so please do give us a follow there too, because as I keep saying, every little bit helps. And if you just cannot get enough of a silly old Scotsman talking about electric cars, then please remember to stick on our YouTube channel, because there's now well over 100 videos on there, as well as road test reviews, sneak peeks, our electric icon series, motorbike reviews by Charlie Berman of all people, and
Lovely.
van reviews as well. All that remains for me to say is thank you once again for watching and supporting the channel. Thank you to Liz for helping me in today's video as well, and for giving her thoughts on the new Cupra Born. And we'll see you again soon.
Bye.
So, you've watched our video. It's now my job to tell you to like and subscribe, and press the little bell button to receive notification of when our next video is uploaded.